My name is Craig Yu. I'm an associate professor at computer science at George Mason University. And my colleague, Quincy, he is having a fever today, so he cannot come, but he recorded a video, which I will play at the end of the talk. And he will share with you some advice about the VR game development. So today, I'm going to give a talk on creating the extended reality of the future with artificial intelligence and computational design. I keep thinking what I should talk. Yep. Hello. Right. Yeah. All right. Hear me okay? All right. Thank you. So I keep thinking, I don't know about the future. No one knows about the future. So it's really hard to say what will happen. So I tried to search around and, I saw a YouTube video showing what may be the future metaverse gaming. Someone make this. So let's play it. And get some ideas. So how you play a game? I don't know, 10 years from now, in augmented reality, if you feel like it, midnight. So they launch a AR interface, the device scan the environment, to understand the environment, so we can generate a game out of this. So, the video shows some possible ideas of implementing a game in augmented reality in the future. And from the experience, you see that there are different techniques applied, right? So you need to first acquire the scene understanding of the environment. You need to have the geometry of the environment. And your game needs to adapt to that understanding so that the characters, they act like real humans. Of course, there are lots of techniques come in, like tracking. The system knows where the player is, so the AI can respond to that and play against the player. And also, the player feels the gameplay also by haptics, right? The guy wear the haptics vest when he's getting a bullet, so he feels the vibration, right? So this may give us some ideas about what the future may be. So now the job is from the research perspective, right? So we want to realize some techniques to enable this kind of next generation gaming experience in augmented reality, and that's what our group does. So our group at George Mason University, which is in Virginia, like half hour from here, is working on this direction, on design computing and extended reality. So basically, we are researchers working on computer graphics, vision, HCI, and the intersection of these fields in computer science, trying to envision what will the future of work, entertainment, and everyday life be. So here are some of the projects that our group works on. So we use AI optimization techniques, machine learning for generating design automatically, like layout designs for games and also architectural design. And I will show you some examples. The next direction is scene understanding and AR experiences. As you saw from the video, right? The game needs to understand the environment in order to generate the augmented reality, virtual characters, animations, and so on, right? So we are working along this line of, acquiring the geometry of the environment, understand the environment, and then develop the game out of it, right? And the next direction is more about the serious games. You may have heard of the term serious games. So it's about using games as a education tools to teach people some kind of skills or train people on some tasks, right? So we are especially working on personalized VR training. So the idea is that we want to personalize the VR training experience adaptive to the skills of the person that we track from the experience, right? Like if you're really good at doing something, there's no point to ask you repeatedly do that, right? So, the program will analyze your strengths, your weaknesses, in order to adapt the gameplay to train you progressively, all right? And the final direction that we work on is computational interaction. So this is more about using AI, machine learning techniques to create tools to help people navigate virtual environments, augmented reality environments, and even for like VR teleoperation tasks, which we are working on very actively these days. So in the examples that I will show, I refer a lot to this computational design framework because this is not really an academic talk, so I don't want to go into too much details about the framework. But the basic idea is that in order for computers to be able to generate optimal designs for us, right? So you need to first formulate the problem mathematically, right? So that the computer have a very good understanding of the problem, right? So the best way to communicate with the computers is to use code, right? And the code is based on a mathematical model, right? And based on that, you can basically turn the computational design problem into a optimization problem where the computers will launch an optimization to sample some good design solutions in this design space, right? So like if you think of a level design as a computational design problem, then you have a landscape like this that represents different solutions. So the task here for the computer is to sample some good solutions, right, while avoiding some bad solutions. So good solutions could be the ones that is presented to the user, right, as the next gameplay. So I will give you some examples. So first of all, I want to talk about virtual environment design. So we have this work published almost 10 years from now, but I still want to use this as a starting example because it motivates a lot of our follow-up work. And this work is still very highly cited by the community. So this work is about how we can use optimization approach to automatically generate virtual environments. So the virtual environments could be used for, VR experiences, level designs, and so on. So here how it works. You may have used a tool like that on the left, provided by IKEA or like some other CAD models, tools that help you to, that allows you to manually, create a design. But as you can see on the right, I can play it again. So if you apply an algorithm, the algorithm can automatically generate the design of a virtual environment in no time. And you can also run this algorithm to generate many, many different designs, right? So the key of the approach is that we have some positive examples created by human level designers. And we apply a optimization technique called simulated annealing to sample solutions from a design space of these level designs. So basically, the approach works by randomly initializing the arrangement, and then it optimizes a bunch of cost terms that correspond to like economics of the space, the pairwise relationships of some objects, the chair should be facing the screen, right? So there are some constraints that we encode here that would ensure a good design. And then we ask the optimizer to iteratively sample this space to generate some good designs for us, right? And doing this, you can run the algorithm multiple times to generate multiple designs. Like, for the factory, there are multiple designs that satisfy some relationships, like, the pairwise relationships between the chairs and the desks. So basically, the computer helps us to explore the solution space to find like what kind of level designs will satisfy the original, the goals of the design. So Following that, so this year, actually, virtual reality, also actually last year, by the way, Happy New Year, guys. So it's 2023 now. So last year, we presented this paper at IEEE VR. So we take a step further in doing mood-driven colorization of virtual indoor spaces. So basically, you have a virtual environment, and we want to color the virtual environment automatically in a way to induce certain mood on the player. So the basic idea is that you have an input scene that you want to color, right? And we have a machine learning model that learns from Google images of different colorization of scenes. And underlying is a neural network that can classify a certain colorization and predict the possible mood that will be induced by that colorization. And then we have an optimizer that talks to that machine learning model in order to iteratively, update colorization of the scene so that finally you get a scene that would, that carries a certain mood effect. So for example, you can apply this approach to generate a cheerful dining room, a scary bedroom, or a romantic living room, peaceful bathroom, and so on. So, and all of these scenes are automatically colored by the approach that I talked about. Of course, there are some overlapping between the moods, right? So like a melancholy living room may have some overlap with a scary living room, and we did find such effects like in the user study where we put players into the rooms that we generated colorized automatically, and then we asked about their moods. And in general, they find the moods that are induced match with the target moods that we specify originally when we run the algorithm. So the approach works. So let me jump to the personalized serious games projects. So we have these projects on the personalized VR driving training. You may have heard of using virtual reality to help people to master different skills. For example, right, driving. If someone needs to improve his driving habits, right? So instead of letting the person go through a real driving habit improvement class, you can have the person try improve the skills in VR. So we have this setup, using the fourth VR headset, which has the eye tracking capability. And of course, in order to make this experience realistic, we use a Logitech, driving setup with the driving wheel here, so that the person with the virtual reality visualization and the control, she feels like it's really like driving in the real world. So I talked about personalizing the experience, and this is a general approach that we use. So basically, the user first does a pre-evaluation. So you let the person drive in a city, and the program keeps track of the driving habits of the person, like whether the person signal before making a turn, whether the person look at the mirrors when she wants to change a lane. So based on that analysis, so we have an optimizer that will sample different routes in a virtual city in order to help the person to improve, right? So for example, if I'm really bad at making turns, I always forget about some steps that I should take, like signaling or like looking at a mirror, then it will generate more a route that contains more turns in order to reinforce my skills, right? And here in this demo, we can see, the person is driving around, and because we are using we use a eye tracking virtual reality headset, so we can very precisely see where the person looked is, right? When she drives in this simulation, right? So does she look at the mirror? Does she look at the does she look at the rear wheel driving mirror and also the side mirror, right? And does she follow the correct steps in doing this task? And is the timing right? So we can analyze all these things in order to evaluate her skill, right? And then we generate the experience accordingly. And So that's the driving work, and we also apply similar approach for other, exergaming type of thing. So this one is about personalizing the exergaming according to the exercise intensity goals of the player, right? So one very big difference between virtual reality gaming and a traditional gaming is like, for traditional game you use a gamepad, right? There's not much exercise involved in that activity, right? But if you're using the virtual reality headset to play a game, very often you need to move your body. Sometimes it's intentionally designed to be like that so that you can burn some calories, right? So this paper that we worked on is about like, can you generate a level design to help people to burn a certain amount of calories, right? So like, can I specify like, oh, I want to burn like, 100 kcal, 200 kcal. Can you generate gameplay that will allow me to do that, right? So of course I can, I can run on the treadmill to do the same, but we are talking about using virtual reality as a new medium to help people exercise, right? So we want to optimize the gameplay in order to achieve that goal, right? So you can see this is the optimizer in action. So it is assembling the level, and behind the scene, actually, it is calculating the calories that will be induced by this gameplay. So you
Here
can
are
see
the snippets of the 3 different levels of the reflex
3 different
game,
levels generated.
synthesized with different levels of exercise intensity.
So like for the easy
top of the
level,
screen,
you can observe the
we show the
person
chunk
doesn't need to
intensity
jump
graph of
much,
a level.
which is expected,
At the
right?
middle,
For the
we
hard
show the
level, he
player's
needs to
view
move his
of the
body
game.
very,
At the bottom,
very
we
frequently,
show the motion
like
output.
doing squatting, jumping, and so on, in order to burn more calories. So after playing the game, the player would burn the amount of calories that we desired at the first place. And in order to do that, we also use a polar heart rate sensor that is attached to the person, right? Because the heart rate sensor can check the heart rate of the person, and there are formulas that correlate the heart rate with the calories burned, right? So from there, we can keep track of how much calories has been burned on the person, and based on that, we can adaptively update the gameplay, right, in order to achieve the health effect. So this work was quite successful. We published it, and the IEEE VR, IEEE Explorer reached out to us and wrote a feature article for us, and they asked us to try to release this as a plugin that people can use for the game development. And yeah, so we are working along this line. And there's another interesting project that is kind of related to this, but for this, we specifically use a gym bike to achieve the calories burn, right? So I don't know if you have seen something like this. You may have seen people, like wearing a VR headset and, bike on a gym bike. And of course, like, the VR headset sends you to a world that, you enjoy the view. And so that like you can enjoy the view while you are biking and burning your calories, right? So we have this work published in SIGGRAPH 2020 about generating exertion-aware path for people to exercise in virtual reality. So here's the idea. You can see that like this is a terrain generated, and on top of the terrain, our algorithm sample a path that would help people to achieve the calories a goal, right? So like, if I really want to burn lots of calories, then the sampler will generate a path that will involve like climbing a hill, very steep, biking experiences. Versus if I just want to relax, then it may just generate like a relatively flat path for me to bike on. So the algorithm will take care of that, and all you need to do as a player is to put on the headset and then bike the path, and then you will achieve your goal. So in order to do so, of course, this is like a prototype, so we don't have a product yet, right? So it's like a prototype in the lab. And in order to do our experiments, so we bought a gym bike somewhere on eBay, got that, and then we modified the bike. So one thing you may notice is that, if you want the experience to be really very realistic, you want the haptics to synchronize with the path, right? Like if I'm climbing uphill, I should use more force, right? I should experience stronger resistance, right? So that's why we need to modify the gym bike. So basically, the gym bike has a step motor that can control the resistance of the bike, right? And the step motor talks to the program that delivers the gameplay, right? So if the program notices that the person is going uphill, it will apply the corresponding amount of resistance on the gym bike so that the person really feels like the pressure, right? Like the like more resistance, and so that he needs to push harder in order to go uphill. Of course, for the downhill, it will be the opposite, right? So here you can see Quincy biking, and I think he really enjoys it. So like he's going uphill, and that, as I said, the resistance of the bike changes accordingly to give him the right haptic feedback. And so I talk a lot about generating these kind of personalized VR gaming or training experiences. And let's move on to the next topic on the scene-aware virtual agents, right? So like you watch from the video I showed at the beginning, we really want to have virtual agents that will understand the environment and that would interact with the person according to the context of the scene, right? And that's why we have this paper last year in the SIGGRAPH 2022 about adapting augmented reality storytelling experience to the scenes, right? So the basic idea is that, if you want such an approach to work, you first need to have a model of the scene that the person is in, right? So, for example, if you use the HoloLens, you may be able to, because HoloLens have the depth sensor, right? And it can acquire, the 3D geometry of the scene. Of course, the resolution will depend on the resolution of the depth image that can be acquired. But in general, the first step is that you need to acquire the scene, right? And then we can apply some computer vision algorithms to identify the objects in the scene, like where the objects are, what are the types of the objects. There are some chairs here, a table here, screen here. So there are computer vision algorithms that can do this kind of object detection, object recognition for us, so that we have a scene understanding, right? And based on the scene understanding, we have the story script. So basically, the story is a story of the gameplay, and we adapt the story according to the semantics of the scene, right? So, for example, the story may involve, have a party, you have some virtual characters, having fun with you, and first of all, you guys get some drink, and then you play a board game somewhere, and then you sit down and watch a TV show, right? So the story would analyze, the story would distribute the events based on the scene that the user is in, according to the semantics. And for the sake of this talk, I don't go through the details of how this can be done. If you really want to learn about it, please, refer to our paper or send me an email. But I just want to give you a, general idea of how this works. And the good thing about this is that it is adaptive, meaning that like you have the same story, you can distribute the same story to different scenes, right? According to where the person is, right? So for example, this is a story about like there is a manager and there's some colleagues, and you are one of the teams of the company, and your boss gives you a task, and then you need to work with other guys to finish the task. And this is the experiment we did at our lab at GMU.
An office after the group meeting.
So this is a view. This is a view of the player using the augmented reality headset, and this is like a top-down. This is like a top-down view of the virtual characters and so on. So let me play the video.
The manager goes to his office, and employees including the player go to the workspace and use computers. The player then goes to print a file and brings it to the manager's office to discuss with the manager.
So you see the AR guys in front of you, and this is your AR
Meanwhile,
boss.
the other two employees go to the pantry to deliver snacks to the meeting area. In the end, everyone goes to sit and chat at the table.
Yep. So we have other examples, like you have a story, you can distribute the story like for an apartment scene, for a makerspace scene, and for other types of scenes. And after this project, we are also working on like outdoor type of experience. Like you have a outdoor story that you want people to experience in augmented reality, and we are also using similar approach to generate the gameplay. Well, the virtual characters are not confined to the human-like characters, right? So you can also have like pets, right? Virtual pets, right? So in this case, you wear the headset, you see the virtual pet in front of you, and of course, you want your pet to act like a real pet, right? And meaning that the pet needs to understand the environment, right? Like the cat knows where to get the food, where to take a rest, and so on. So we have this approach for analyzing the environment, identifying the objects that the cat may be interested in, and then we generate the animation of the cat so that people can see that in augmented reality. Well, you may wonder where we get the data of like how the cat interacts with the environment. So actually, this is from a data set online. We find someone, attaching sensors to a real cat, and let the cat, play around in a room for one day, 2 days, and from the data, we apply like a machine learning model to capture the behaviors of the cat from the data, so that we can generate realistic, behaviors of a virtual cat. So, we have a cat, playing in the living room, bedroom, and the kitchen. And of course, we need to apply some pathfinding algorithm for the cats to realistically move around in the scene. And so another topic I want to talk about is VR assistive tools for like virtual reality gaming. So one work that we published like 2-3 years ago was about adaptive VR navigation aid. So if you grew up in the 90s, you may have played this kind of game, right? Like Crazy Taxi or Zelda, right? So like you may notice the navigation aids that apply in the game. Like for Crazy Cat Taxi, they have an arrow showing the direction that you should go, right? And for the Zelda, you have the minimap, right? To identify where you are in the scene, right? So the problem with this kind of aids is that if you may notice, like when you play the Crazy Taxi, you may end up keep looking at the arrow instead of the surrounding of the gameplay, right? Because you need to rely on this arrow to find out the direction, right? And that may be a problem because you are being distracted from the gameplay, right? And you are like overly obsessed to the wayfinding aid. And we find that this may be even more as a problem in virtual reality, right? And in virtual reality, ideally, we want people to navigate in the real world, right? So we don't want the person to always like stare at a certain spot while ignoring what's happening in the scene. So that's why we created this adaptive aid in order to help the person do the wayfinding if he or she really needs it, right? So basically, there is a eye tracking headset that the person use. So at that time, we used the fourth eye tracking VR headset, but these days many headsets support eye tracking, like the Quest support eye tracking now. HTC Vive they also have a eye tracking version of the headset, so that the technique could apply. So the basic idea is that we have a machine learning model that can predict whether a person is lost in the environment or not, right? Based on the eye gaze pattern. So think about it, like if you are in in the lobby of this hotel which you are not familiar with, so the gaze pattern that you induce will be very different from like you navigate from in a familiar place, right? So like if you're lost in a place, you probably look around to find some hints for wayfinding, right? So the gaze pattern is very different from like when you are very, very certain where you should go, right? Then you don't need to look around. You just look straight, right? So from the gaze pattern, we have a machine learning classifier that can tell whether the person is probably feeling confused or not. And based on that, we can pop up the 8, right? So like if the person doesn't need help, of course, we don't need to pop up the 8. Or if the person needs help, then the 8 will show. Okay, the logic is simple, right? Once we figure that out, right? So
here
shows
the user feels the
eight
need for
in action.
navigation help once she saw a barrier blocking her path. Our classifier was able to detect the need for navigation aid based on her gaze patterns and displayed an arrow to guide her to her.
Yep, so you can see how it works in action. And this is a gaze pattern comparing the adaptive aid and the permanence aid. So you can see with the adaptive aid, the gaze pattern is more spread out, which is what we want, right? Like we want a person to look around, not to just focus as the aid region, right? So versus like if it is a permanence aid, you can see that most of the gaze is concentrated at the aid position, and the person does not look around as often. And very recently, we work on the VR Yep.
In the case of the adaptive aid, did you have the arrow pointing only for the duration in which you classify the player as confused, or did that link your person create from
Sorry, I don't get your question very well. Can you say again?
How long would the adaptive navigation arrow remain after that user was detected to be confused about the environment? Like, would it just stay there forever? Would it time out after a certain amount of time? Would it go away as soon as the algorithm classified them as no longer confused?
I don't know if I get your question correctly, but so I can explain a little bit about how it works. So basically, the classifier keeps classifying the states of the person at a certain sampling rate. I don't exactly remember how often we do that classification. Maybe every second we do one classification, and the classification is very fast. So basically, based on the pattern, then we have this yes/no question answered. We know whether the person is confused or not. If yes, then we show the 8. If no, then we just hide the 8, and then we classify again next second. Yep.
I think this question is more about like, is that information staying in space? So after it's recognized we're confused, and it's now adaptive, is that forever now adaptive and we build on it? Or would that actually go away and go back to the permanent?
Oh, yeah. So it keeps being adaptive. It's always adaptive. Yeah. So like, of course, the 8 will show for like a few seconds, like let's say for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then it will fade away, and then it will, the classification keeps going on at the back end. Yeah.
So if you were to go back to that area, would it still have the information from that time you were confused and turn it around?
No. So it always depends on the gaze that it tracks in the like last 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah.
So it's more reactionary. It's not like building.
Exactly. It's more reactionary. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good thought. I mean, we can also learn about the place itself, and maybe there's a higher chance to pop up the 8 because we know people are probably confused in this place. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah. We can talk more after I have the Q&A section. So the next. So this is a recent project we work on. It's about the VR teleportation graph. Well, I assume you guys all have some experience with VR. Probably you have tried a technique called, teleportation, right? So basically, you have a large virtual environment, and you want the person to be able to go around, navigate the environment, but the person is actually just standing at a spot. So you let the person to teleport, right, by clicking, pointing it at somewhere, confirming, and then you teleport the person to that space. So the problem with this is that sometimes the person doesn't know where to teleport to, right? So end up he may do a lot of try and error, right? So he may teleport to a place that doesn't really have a good view, and then he may need to step back and change to another spot. So we have this approach to analyze the scene and generate what we call a teleport graph for navigating the scene. So this teleport graph encodes certain properties. So first of all, there are these teleportation positions that we suggest to the user. And these positions are supposed to have a desirable view if you teleport there. So how do we get the desirable views? So basically, we learn from some data where people prefer to when they navigate in the scene. So we have that part. And also, the teleportation graph would have a comprehensive coverage of the environment, while not being too comprehensive. Right, so we want the teleport positions to cover the environment, but we don't want too many teleport positions. Otherwise, it may be inefficient to navigate the scene. So we have all these considerations, and the optimizer will consider all these factors in order to generate a teleport graph for a virtual environment. Right, so you can imagine this will be helpful for like a gaming environment. You want to have a suggested kind of pathway to let the people explore the environment. So if you have a gaming environment like this, you can let the algorithm generate this teleport graph, and the person can follow this to explore the scene. And of course, this is also helpful for virtual tours, right? Like virtual tours for real estate purposes, right? That will also be helpful. So here I show some examples.
We conducted a user study consisting of 2 tasks. In the navigation task, we compare our method with the...
So on the left is our method, and these are the spots that our algorithm suggests to the user. And this is, on the right, is the traditional point and teleport, right, with no suggestions. So basically, the person just goes wherever he wants to go.
Conventional point and teleport approach that requires users to manually determine teleport positions. We conduct...
So here you can see the behaviors of the user under these 2 conditions. So on the left is our condition, on the right is a traditional PNT.
Here shows the trajectories of 2 participants. The participant using point and teleport performs many intermediate teleports along his trajectory. In contrast, the other participant aided by our teleport graph traverses the scene more efficiently. He often chooses the anchor positions as destinations. He also spends more time perceiving the interesting regions.
So again, the idea is based on understanding, right? So first, start from scene understanding, right? So you have a scene. We need to understand the geometry, the semantics of the scene in order to generate something helpful to guide the person, right, to navigate the scene, right? So in this case, we generate the teleport graphs to help the person. So I covered a bunch of projects that we work on at the research lab. Well, I think that this is the dawn of VR, AR gaming, right? So if you grew up in the 1990s, so you probably have played Street Fighter, right? And I was thinking, what would be the Street Fighter in 2031? And someone already thought about that, and they created this kind of of course, this is fake, right? Fake AR type of Street Fighter, right? And maybe we will get there, and now it is a time to work on all those techniques and developments needed to move us from the 1990s to the 2031. And this is Mario, right? If you're a Mario fan, then I don't know if you can try this really in the park, but this is what I found from a YouTube video also. 1985, we have 2D Mario, 2035, maybe you play Mario in the park in AR. So I would like to thank my students and postdoc and visitors who help work out lots of projects, and I also acknowledge the funding support. So if you want to find out more about the research projects, we go to the website. But I'm not done. So to bring more thoughts and innovations to the commercial world, Quincy, who is absent today because of the fever, Quincy and I started a company called Great Victory Legends. So we are a startup located in the Fairfax. Quincy is a CTO, and he's going to share with you some thoughts he have generated from the VR gaming development experience. And as a disclaimer, so the projects we describe in the following slides, the company projects, they have nothing to do with the GMU, but I think this is what Quincy shares is related to this topic of future VR gaming. So I will let Quincy talk. So let me see. I will play the video that Quincy recorded last night. So.
Okay, thank you, Craig's nice introduction. And hi, guys, and this is Haikun Huang. And I want to share below my work and experience as the CTO of GVL. And GVL is a startup company founded by my PhD advisor, Craig Yu, and me last year. And our company's business is mainly related to XR, which is what we are good at. And of course, VR games are also included. Games are an excellent carrier for the people to learn a new field, because games can visualize abstract things and give the player positive feedback. Just imagine the way children learn. And for example, when we first learned math, the teacher taught us 1 apple plus 1 apple equals 2 apples. And if you get the answer right, you have 2 apples to eat. And however, if the teacher taught us borrowing a mathematical theory at the beginning, few people could learn math. So I think the best way to ask people to get into the metaverse is through the VR games, not the VR papers. Before we discuss the VR games, let's briefly review the history of the video games. After the advent of the computers, a new form of the entertainment was born: the video games. The world's first video game, Space War, is a top-down third-person shooter game, and the graphics are simple, bitmaps. Its gameplay involves 2 players fighting against each other. The spaceship controlled by the player has the concept of the number of weapons and fuel. The planet in the game also have a gravity effects of interacting with the player's spaceship. Space War already has the essential elements of the modern video game. With the development of the hardware and software technology, video games are also developing in 3 dimensions. There are carriers, types, and design patterns. The game carriers start with physical objects such as materialized cheese, then to the 2D games, 3D games, and now to the VR games. Games type include turn-based, RPG, real-time strategy, shooter, adventure, sports, and more. And they are not mutually exclusive, but they can often be combined with each other to produce more game types. For example, the turn-based RPG. The game design pattern includes simulation, sandbox, open world, and more. And every time the carriers of the game evolves, it will bring a brand new gaming experience. If the evolution from the 2D to 3D games is the evolution of the visual experience, then from 3D to VR games, it is the evolution of the operating experience. That is the sense of the immersion. In VR games, the way players play is no longer just using their finger to control the keyboard and mouse. Instead, players must play every part of their actual body to drive their avatars. To further enhance the sense of the immersion, the engineer has also designed the variant of the dedicated VR equipment, such as VR suit, gloves, treadmill, driver system, and flying system. And however, using such a device could significantly increase the budget of the developers and the gamers. For the developers and the gamers with small budgets, we can improve the immersion of the gaming experience by using the vibration feedback of the VR controllers and some design elements in the game. For example, when a player shoots a gun in a game, the VR controller will arrive to provide a physical feedback to their player. Then, on the car dashboard, may display the appropriate game stacks, or on a book showing a game tutorials. This low-cost design can significantly enhance the immersion of the VR games. Another common problem with the VR games is the calibration of the VR space. Because according to the player's height and the playing posture, sitting or standing, the VR space needs to be calibrated before the game to provide a comfortable visual experience. If the player needs to perform the calibration before each game, this will significantly reduce the gaming experience. Therefore, we designed an adaptive VR space calibration scheme. It will automatically calibrate the range of the VR space in the real time according to the player's head position. So no matter the player's posture in the game, the VR camera will always be limited to the specific area. In the actual game, we find that this design can also prevent the VR camera from betraying the rule. Therefore, developers don't need to consider the user's height and playing posture. They only need to focus on the game design and experience. Car-Fight is the fast-paced, first-person cockpit VR game developed by our company. We hope that by creating this game, we can continue to explore the possibility of the low-cost and the high VR immersion. And the EA version of the Car-Fight is currently live on the SideQuest and the Atlas. You are welcome to download it and play it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that concludes the talk. And yeah, so we have this game released like 10 days ago. Yeah, and it's free. You can search Car Fight on the Quest Store and you can find it. And it's a multiplayer game, so you can create a room and enjoy with your friends. Thank you. All right, so any question, feel free to ask. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
There must be a lot of options and constraints to prevent something like degenerate solutions where you're just like pushing those layers like hard as possible to get the power count in the shortest amount of time. And I'm wondering if there's like relative weighting terms and constraints, if they're actually adapted to this layer, or if it's just some manual tuning that's trying to make it as general as possible, like all possible layers.
Yeah. So when we decide that, let me go to that slide. So I guess you are talking about this work, right? Yeah. So
Here are the
we
snippets.
try to be as general as possible, as generic as possible, because we just proposed an approach and we demonstrated it actually in 2 to 3 games. So we want the formulation to be general so that it can be applied to different games. And if needed, we can apply some constraints on some variables, of course, right? So like, for the calories, like you may, for example, you may apply some constraint that would limit the amount of body movement actually needed to play the game, right? So you don't want the game to be too overwhelming. You can do that as long as you can formulate that constraint mathematically, so that the optimizer can evaluate that when it generates the gameplay. As long as we can do that, then we can have something, consider. Yeah.
You didn't talk that much about the actual formulations of these optimizations.
Yep.
Do you generally use something that's gradient based or sampling based or Bayesian optimization? Because I imagine a lot of these cost terms end up being very optimized.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Is it very solid specific optimization formulation you use, or do you guys have a preferred formulation that most of your talks are solved?
Yep. So very good question. So first of all, we use a sampling-based approach, like you said, because the cost terms, in general, they are pretty complex. So you cannot really apply like a gradient descent to optimize that. And we propose the approach, and we want the approach to be generic enough for different game synthesis. So that's why the terms that we suggest in the formulation are pretty general. So I can tell you, so basically we have a few major terms. So one major term is about, of course, it's about the evaluation of the exercise intensity, right? So for that term, we use the, I don't have the formula here. So we use the heart rate of the person, and there is a formula that converts the heart rate into the amount of calories burned. And from there, so we can evaluate, the calories burned by playing, a certain game, right? So that's a major term that we need to have. And then we also have some other more minor terms like regularization. We don't want the gameplay to be too long or too short, so we want it to stay within a reasonable range. Things like that, and maybe a term to avoid too much repetition during the game. Yeah, so we have something like that. Yep, sure. Mm-hmm.
Is that something also manually implemented, or is that something that based on their age, weight, their goal, can that be modified?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, the formula that I said we applied consider the age, gender of the person in computing the calories burned. Yeah. So if I'm of a different age, I play the same game, I may burn a different amount of calories. So the formula already take care of that.
Is your actual indicator, or is that just on your end of a dating zone? So say you're doing way too much, is that actually
Not really. So actually in the gameplay that we show, we pre-computed the level. So it's not truly adaptive. But we can easily turn that formulation to be adaptive if we can keep track of the heart rate of the person during the gameplay. So we can, keep evaluating how much calories have been burned. If not enough, then we can, extend the gameplay through the algorithm to achieve that purpose. Yeah.
So at this point, it's more operational. You're not actually creating barriers for this person based on that practices. You're just purely seeing how their body limits.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the level is pre-computed. Yeah. Question? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So for each of these projects, because we publish the research projects as research papers, so we did user study to validate the effects that we claim for the algorithms. Otherwise, the viewers won't let us go. So we have to do the user study experiments and solicit the feedback from the users, include that in the paper. So if you want to learn about the details, you can look at that section. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I'm not aware of that, but yeah, but maybe, yeah. For dance. Hmm.
Brad Waller's group over at GMU doing one for martial arts and dance.
That's cool. I don't know about it. Uh-huh.
Brad Waller, LLER, he's out of the, can't remember the name of his group.
Mm. Cool.
Brad doesn't do these things that often. He's an old sweater like myself.
Yeah. So.
Real quick here.
Yeah.
I'm Steve Sheets. I'm the moderator for the tracks here. I want to mention that we have other talks.
Yep.
We have a talk today at 3 o'clock for VR and education.
Yep.
We have one tomorrow, which John's going to be with us, where we're in VR development. And we have one on Sunday in the future of VR. We also have 2 more panels, not panels, but specific talks by individuals. We're going to be talking, one of your people is going to be talking this afternoon, and another one going to be doing more development tomorrow. So please check your schedules. These are in the panels, they're not in the VR track.
All right. So, yeah. So feel free to ask me any questions, perhaps offline, because I think there are other events coming to this room. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.